Welcome to your first day of class, everyone. I'm Marketing Communications Manager Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we're here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we designed this webinar that will cover all the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let's introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Delhiero. He joined Trident in 2010 and currently serves as a department chair in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Delhiero earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and for student motivation. Next, we have Tasha Kiratin. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as Senior Manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member of the Committee of Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. She's a Trident alum graduating from the Master of Arts in Education program and is currently a Doctor of Education student. Just a few notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Find the questions box, type in your question, hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions and we'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment, and so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Delhiero is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end, so stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun, and this will help with your motivation. This is something, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you. It's not to be upset with you. It's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed. And that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. You've probably built, hopefully you built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number, note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning, so I'd always ask your teacher. But the key is, I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class. And then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper maybe by the weekend so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Delhiero, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Delhiero, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple of days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is just it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this, because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes, because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you've got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark, include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you, and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Delhiero. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident for careers at trident.edu. Trident, the number 4, careers at trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Just having some technical issues back here as always. Everyone can hear me? Everything sound good? Just to confirm.
Great.
Actually, I can't hear everyone, and that's probably why my phone volume is down. So we have, joining us today is Kara Moore, an instructor in our university college who joined Trident in 2012. Welcome, Kara. Good to have you.
Thanks so much, Daniel. Welcome, everyone.
As a reminder, I know there's been a few questions already, but a few of you have raised your hands. But if you have questions and you'd like them answered, don't raise your hand, just type them into the control panel. See the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. Go about halfway down, you'll see questions. Type the questions in there, submit, and we'll address them here. And first question, this one is for you, Kara. Let's see. What do you deem a must in order to properly attack multiple classes at the same time?
That's a great question. More than anything, of course, is time management. Because as you know, we're all busy working adults, I'm sure, and then also new sometimes to the university scene. So it is important to review all your classes ahead of time, every single one. Go into the portal, look at your courses. You can't break anything, which is great. Review the expectations, review each assignment. And once you have an idea of all your multiple classes, you'll be able to time manage better. You'll know what those expectations are. So I always tell my students, take about at least 30 minutes every day just to plug in, whether that's with your classmates, your discussions, ask questions, and start on those assignments early. You have 2 weeks to do them, so start early.
Great. Thank you, Kara. And Tasha, next question is for you. Something popped up in my email about the orientation. Is that also required as part of my first class?
Great question, because I've been in there all morning. I'm the facilitator for orientation, and I do send out notifications. It's not mandatory, it's recommended. We find that students who typically go in, even for 20 minutes, or you can spend even 2 hours in there, typically have a higher success rate starting. It's a great opportunity to practice submitting assignments, submitting discussions, and just learning the platform. If you've been away for a while, it's also a great reminder of where to go, what to do, so that as soon as you're done with that, you can jump right into your classes and start participating. So I highly recommend it, but it's not required. You will have access to it for the next 6 months because there's materials in there that we want you to reference as well.
Great, thank you, Tasha. And Kara, next question, this one's for you. I understand for a first-time student that we have to do and complete all modules and courses. Is there a specific time that students should be logged in?
The great part about Trident is that we do offer so much flexibility. So you can decide how you want to do your assignments. And you can do that 24/7. If you're a night owl, then certainly do your assignments at night. If you function better during the day, do them in the morning. Also, I know many of you may be working from 8 to 5, so it may be that you're an evening worker. I think the most important thing, it's not necessarily a specific time, it's the time that works for you. So choose those moments during the day where you can get involved with your classmates in the discussion, follow up on any questions you have with your instructors, but really think about what's the best time that makes you most effective and most efficient, and you'll do fine.
Great,
Yeah,
great advice.
Add to that too. That's the great thing about Trident, is that flexibility. So we have students who are all over the world and who are getting in when they can to participate. I love Kara's recommendation of the 30 minutes a day, just to get you into that habit of
of being connected with your class, I would always suggest, there isn't a specific time, but if you could go in and do your introduction, do your first discussion post within the first few days of class, that's always going to be a great way to start to feel like you've kicked off class and you're on track. For someone who's doing one class a session, maybe you do one paper each week and then discussion posts there. If you're doing 2 classes, you may want to look at doing 2 papers a week and just make sure that you have a really tight schedule or set goals of what you're going to do. So by the end of each week, you can kind of track if you're falling behind or not. And if you fall behind, don't get discouraged. You want to reach out to your instructor. You want to make sure that you're aware of any implications of submitting late. And then just don't give up. Give yourself some grace. Be lenient with yourself, especially this first session. You're still filling out what's going to work and what's not going to work for you.
And if I can piggyback on what Tasha was saying with great advice, the other good part too is the more you're in the class, the more you learn about the specifics about what to do. But if you have questions, you can then ask your instructor. And we always respond within 24 hours. So that's a responsibility that we have to you as well. So keep that in mind. When you are working, on a Wednesday night, if you have a question, send an email. You'll get a response on Thursday. So don't wait necessarily until Saturday to check that email. You'll have that answer right away, which will keep you moving in the class, which is super important.
Okay, wanted to wait a second in case there was more piggybacking going on there, but thanks for the wonderful advice on that. It's really, really important to start yourself out on the right foot in your first class. Tasha, we have another orientation question, actually a couple here, rolled into one. That is, I noticed in the orientation there was not a rubrics underneath the assessment tab, although in the training it's stated to reference it. Is this an error? I also noticed this in my first course of Tux 101. And real quick, Tasha, before you answer, to the person asked that, can you clarify that last sentence? Does it mean you also noticed that it wasn't in Tux 101 or that it was in Tux 101?
Tasha, do you want me to answer that? Or?
Oh, for the Tux 101, you can answer the Tux 101 question. I thought maybe they were clarifying. So I can look into the orientation. We should have rubrics there. Yeah, if it's not showing for some reason, I always want to know. So, but it should be in Tux 101. I know that for sure. I'm sure you want to know that too, right, Kara?
Yes. And Tasha, you probably do have it in orientation. And so it's a bit tricky, I'll be honest. The rubrics are hidden just a little bit. We've been trying to make them a little bit more blingy. It just hasn't happened here lately. But if you go to your Dropbox where you submit your assignments and look in the bottom right-hand corner, and there is a rubric link. And if you don't see that, definitely let us know. But it is within your Dropbox submission. And it should be, but definitely let us know if you're not seeing that, because I know we do quite a few updates within our portal to make things as convenient and effective for your usage. And then sometimes things happen if links get lost. So we want to make sure you have that rubric. And of course, your instructors also have copies. Never hesitate to ask them for a paper copy. Print it, leave it next to you, and then you never have to worry about that.
Yeah, this student also wasn't seen in Tux 101. And to the student who asked that, right now, I have Tasha's info or email on the screen. So if you reach out to her, we can make sure you're connected and figure this issue out. Next question. Next question. This looks like it's going to be our last one for the day. Actually, might have another one too, but I would normally send this to Dr. Delhiero. So Kara, you're up here. So does Trident still have the Student Guide to Writing a High-Quality Academic Paper slide deck?
Okay, we do actually have the guide. It's a little bit different. It's been changed to an APA reference guide. Under your resources, which is on your course webpage, you have many resources for how to write an academic paper. It also includes APA, of course, which is the American Psychological Association writing standards, which are used here at Trident. So you have links to that, and within that website, there is an example paper for you to use. I still recommend to students, as wonderful as having an online version of a paper can be, print it out. You can put tabs, which is great, on how to reference, how to cite, how to find an important web document that you know is up to standards that we need. Print that paper out. You should margins, type font, anything you need to help you visually, it's the way to go.
Yeah, and there is a writing workshop in there under the resources that where Kara was referring you to. Those are slides that you progress through, which might be what you're referring to. We also, we have that writing style guide. So the APA Basics writing style guide and the workshop between those are amazing resources that could help anybody who's a little bit nervous about getting back into writing.
And I'll add as well, in the text courses, we also have a basics for writing guide that we'd love to allow students to have and receive through email. It's not on the website, but instructors are happy to share that with you as well. If you just need that quick refresher, I know I do, and so I write every day, and I still do. So if you need that, we have a resource within Tux that we're happy to share.
Okay, and one more question related to writing, Kara. We have a student, they're used to MLA format. Do they need to learn APA format for all classes?
That's a great question. I don't want to speak for all classes, but I will tell you at Trident we do use APA, the format. MLA, of course, has a lot of similarities to APA, but as you're going to move into your English classes and a lot of your higher courses that are going to be past your introductions, they are going to look for APA format. Also talk to your teachers. That's really important. There is an introduction to APA in Tux, so you're not going to go into your next classes without any support and resource. It's not going to be a brand new experience for you when you go into English 101 or Ethics 101. You're going to start with Tux, and we're going to give you what you need to be successful in the next classes. So don't be scared. The best part about Tux with how we introduce APA is we don't grade down for it. It is a learning experience. And I know writing gives a lot of students anxiety, completely normal. So we don't want you to be anxious when you first start to learn that writing style.
And if I may, for our students who are starting their master's degree on here today, the expectation is to start to know it from the get-go. And sometimes it's just having a resource with you. Some people like to go on Amazon and get like a physical book to refer to. Again, we have our APA Basics, which is a great option, or Owl Purdue. If you Google that, Owl, the animal, Purdue, is a wonderful resource because anytime you have a question, there's going to be examples. You want to make sure that you're doing your in-text citations, but I don't want to scare people off who are just starting a general ed course and this is their first time. It's just that's the general formatting that we use at Trident. And so Tux courses, which are undergraduate courses starting your bachelor's and associates, that's going to kind of transition you in. At the master's level, I would just recommend getting familiar with that sooner than later.
Okay, great, thanks. And it looks like that's all the questions for today. If there's any that slipped in and we missed, we'll circle back with you. I know there's one person I said I would definitely get back to after the presentation, so expect an email in the next 20 or so minutes. But thank you, Kara, for joining us today. It was great to have you. And thank you, Tasha. And we're going to end things with a student success story today from one of our graduates. So good luck. Good luck, everyone, this session, and thank you again for attending.
Thanks, everyone.
When I was 6 years old, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. This disability followed me throughout my education. While in high school, one teacher saw potential in me where no one else did. He recommended that I attend a college course designed at getting a computer networking degree. Here, I find myself 17 years later, graduating with an MBA, leading 76 airmen whose mission it is to maintain a $7 billion infrastructure that supports 9,000 military members who launch 67 aircraft in the defense of the United States and her allies. I could not have made it this far without the amazing support of my family, friends, mentors, peers, and coworkers who never stop believing in me. And of course, my education that shepherds me through difficult decision making every day. If anyone watching this ever has a doubt in their abilities, I am proof that with hard work and determination, anything is possible. Thank you, Trident.